welcome back to the George Collection. I'm Rachel Rightside Blonde. Today's the 17th, which is a great day, but it's also episode 138, and 138 in Gematria is Donald Trump, so not a coincidence there that 138 would be on the 17th of January. So today I wanted to look at a topic that has been near and dear to Donald Trump, and that is the media and fake news. And I wanted to call attention to an article from the inaugural issue of George magazine from 1995, which discusses the media in particular. So let's take a look. This article is by Democratic consultant Paul Begala, and it's called "It's the Media, Stupid." Some people say the media are too liberal. Others insist they're too conservative. Paul Begala, a veteran of the '92 campaign, explains what's really wrong with the press. Asking one of Bill Clinton's former political advisors what he thinks of the press is like asking a fire hydrant what it thinks of dogs. But I'm not alone in disliking the media. At the other end of the political spectrum, Rush Limbaugh whines on about the liberal media elite dictating the news. Limbaugh's wrong. Ideology has very little effect on the news. It is instead technological, institutional, and competitive pressures that distort what we see, hear, and read. As one who lives and dies by these unwritten rules of the media, I thought I'd try to codify some of them. After all, despite the popular image of political consultants as paid liars, we do have real long-term stake in the accuracy of the press. Number one, keep it simple, stupid. Remember when the press reported that George Bush was so out of touch that he didn't even recognize a supermarket scanner? Fortunately for my candidate, Bill Clinton, that simple story got picked up everywhere. Unfortunately for Bush, it was also simply wrong. The truth is, Bush was being shown a prototype for a newer, more sophisticated scanner than was then on the market. No matter, the story fit nicely with the simplistic narrative of an isolated, insulated aristocrat in the White House. Many in the media insist that the attention span problem really rests with the American people, who, they complain, won't read or watch long stories. I disagree. I'm convinced there's a market for substance. After all, nearly 100 million of us tuned in for each of the 3 presidential debates in 1992, even the one that ran at the same time as the baseball playoff game. Number 2. Getting it right away is more important than getting it right. When President Clinton got his haircut on Air Force One, the media screamed that he delayed air traffic for hundreds of people. This story was based on one unnamed source whose allegation wasn't verified before it was printed. Tight deadlines and the terror of being scooped stampeded the press into running a story nobody could prove. Months later, Federal Aviation Administration logs revealed the whole story to be false. Not a single flight was delayed. Number 3, give me a fight or give me nothing. There's something in all of us that loves a good fight, and the press exploits that failing to win readers and boost ratings. Consider this. In the opening days of the new Republican Congress, the first bill passed was the Congressional Accountability Act, which made Congress live under the same laws that affect the rest of us. That major accomplishment was completely overshadowed by the fight over whether Connie Chung sandbagged Newt Gingrich's mother. Part of the reason it was ignored was that it had bipartisan support, and without a good fight, it wasn't a good story. Number 4, scandals get covered, even ones that never happened. The New York Times, which began covering the Whitewater story 3.5 years ago, has returned to the topic some 752 times. But in June, when a Republican critic of President Clinton issued a report to the Resolution Trust Corporation saying his investigation of Whitewater exonerated the Clintons on every important point he examined, the Times isn't the only offender. A Nexus search reveals that Whitewater has appeared in over 31,000 stories, while President Clinton's 1994 health care bill has appeared in only some 2,400 stories. Now that's a scandal. And last, the paralysis of analysis. In his book, Out of Order, media critic Thomas Patterson charts the decline of descriptive journalism. Descriptive journalism, according to Patterson, is just the facts, ma'am, school of journalism. Patterson estimates that 92% of news reports during the 1960 presidential campaign were descriptive, informing voters of candidates' position on everything from agriculture policy to the Chinese islands of Quemoy and Matsu. By the 1992 campaign, only 18% of stories were descriptive. What's replaced the facts is stories with a slant, a spin, an edge. And so Lisa Myers of NBC disses then-President George Bush, who, after all, successfully prosecuted a war, saying, "It's tough to lead when you don't know where you want to go. Call it a vision. George Bush doesn't seem to have one." It may have been true, but was it really Myers' job to present such a neatly wrapped judgment? While editors may love reporters with, quote, voice, the public is turned off by the media's steady outpouring of cynicism. After years of pounding from the media and Republicans, President Clinton was considered very or mostly honest by 37% of Americans in a recent Wall Street Journal NBC News poll. Not great, until you compare his trustworthiness to the media's. Only 21% said the media are very or mostly honest. Apparently, consumers of news have come to realize what political professionals across the ideological spectrum have long believed. The other party may be the opposition, but the press is the enemy. Couldn't have finished that article in a better way. And yes, Paul Begala is a Democrat, and he obviously worked with Bill Clinton. And as we know from all the years of media twisting and turning and narratives, it's really both sides that are doing this, and they're doing this on purpose to keep us against each other. So yes, he worked with Bill Clinton, and yes, he called out George Bush, but I think we can all agree at this point that it's both sides and that yes, the media is the enemy, as Donald Trump has so eloquently pointed out many times. That does it for this episode of the George Collection. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.
Of this extraordinary magazine, George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, and there was a kind of a leveling process, and while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.